Can a broken childhood create a global icon? Matt Damon wasn't born into fame. In fact, his life began with a void. His father walked out when Matt was just 2 years old. That moment, that absence, would become one of the defining forces of his life. Raised in Cambridge, Massachusetts, by his mother Nancy Carlson Page, a tough, principled professor who focused on child development and education, Matt learned early that life wasn't going to be easy, but it could be meaningful. Money was tight. They relied on food stamps. Nancy insisted on independence, hard work, and emotional honesty. There were no handouts, no shortcuts. If Matt wanted something, he'd have to earn it. This environment, equal parts nurturing and demanding, planted the seeds of Matt's work ethic, empathy, and introspective nature. And while other kids were playing baseball or video games, Matt was sneaking into Harvard Square theaters, watching actors transform into other people, and wondering if he could too. Matt wasn't the most outgoing kid. He wasn't loud or flashy, but he had stories inside him, and something told him those stories mattered. It was around this time that he became best friends with another local kid, Ben Affleck. The two bonded over Dungeons and Dragons, comics, and eventually, acting. They made a pact. They'd chase this crazy dream together. While Matt went on to Harvard, he didn't go for Wall Street or medicine. He studied English, but always had one foot in the drama department. He was laser-focused on acting, and he was willing to take risks. At 18, he left college before graduating to chase roles in Hollywood, trading ivy-covered buildings for casting couches and callback lists. But the industry wasn't kind. He scored minor roles. A line here, a moment there. He even dropped 40 pounds for a part in Courage Under Fire, a method-acting gamble that left him sick and unemployed. The physical toll was brutal. The emotional toll was worse. There were days when quitting felt like the most rational choice. But something told him to hold on. It didn't start as a movie. It started as survival. Matt Damon was in a Harvard playwriting class when he first sketched the outline of a story. A troubled young janitor at MIT with a genius-level intellect and a self-destructive streak. It wasn't much yet. Just fragments. Ideas. But it held a kind of raw, unpolished electricity. Something real. That story followed him to Los Angeles, where he crashed on Ben Affleck's couch in a tiny apartment they could barely afford. Rejection was constant. The phone never rang, and when it did, it was almost always a no. They were two unknowns trying to punch through a wall that had no cracks. Hollywood didn't care where they came from. It only cared about who could sell tickets, and they weren't on the list. So they turned inward. If the system wouldn't let them in, they'd build something from the ground up. They sat at a small table, night after night, hammering out a screenplay line by line. Coffee, pizza, arguments, breakthroughs. Every word was personal. Every scene bled truth. And it wasn't just about Will Hunting, the fictional math prodigy from Southie. It was about who Matt and Ben were, who they wanted to be, and everything they feared they might never become. The characters weren't just characters. Chucky was Ben. Skylar was based on someone Matt had once loved and lost. Sean, the therapist played later by Robin Williams, became a voice for the things they didn't know how to say out loud. About grief, masculinity, vulnerability, and the deep ache of unprocessed trauma. When the script was finally finished, they printed it out and started handing it around town like flyers. Some executives liked it, some didn't get it, and most wanted to separate the script from the writers. Studios were eager to buy the screenplay, as long as Damon and Affleck understood they wouldn't be starring in it. That was the moment of truth. They said no. It wasn't a bluff. It was a line in the sand. This wasn't just about getting made. It was about being heard. They knew that if they gave it away, they'd never get another chance to tell their story. And just when it looked like it would all fall apart, Miramax, under Harvey Weinstein, agreed to buy the script and keep Matt and Ben in the lead roles. The deal was sealed. Filming began. And suddenly, the dream that started on a Harvard dorm floor was being brought to life by Gus Van Sant, with Robin Williams attached. Matt was no longer invisible. He was leading his own story. What they didn't realize yet, though, was that Good Will Hunting would do more than launch their careers. It would ripple through culture, challenging the myth of the tough guy, putting therapy in the spotlight, and inspiring a generation to confront their wounds with compassion instead of shame. It wasn't just a script. It was a mirror. And it turned two broke kids from Boston into storytellers the world would never forget. Fame doesn't arrive politely. It crashes in, loud, uninvited, and unrelenting. For Matt Damon, that moment came almost overnight. One day, he was another aspiring actor hustling for callbacks. The next, he was an Academy Award-winning screenwriter being chased by paparazzi, grilled by late-night hosts, and hailed as Hollywood's next golden boy. But with that golden glow came a strange chill. Everyone wanted a piece of him. Studios, media, fans, even people from his past. They all came forward with expectations, assumptions, and demands. Damon suddenly had to answer for every choice. Not just professionally, but personally. What roles he took, who he dated, how he dressed. His name became public property. And while some actors chased that kind of spotlight, Damon was wired differently. The fame felt intrusive. He often spoke about how surreal, and sometimes dehumanizing. It felt to be watched constantly, interpreted endlessly. The very thing he had worked for was now threatening his sense of self. In interviews, he joked about the weirdness of seeing his face on a tabloid next to headlines that were either wildly exaggerated or flat out false. But behind the humor was discomfort, even disillusionment. There was also pressure from inside the industry. After Good Will Hunting, the offers came fast, but they weren't always thoughtful. He was offered high-paying roles that didn't challenge him, didn't excite him, and didn't feel honest to his journey. And yet, there was an unspoken rule. Say no too often, and Hollywood forgets you. Say yes to the wrong role, and you risk losing everything you built. It was a delicate dance, and Damon knew missteps could be fatal to his career. But instead of chasing the biggest checks or the most glamorous projects, he made a different choice. He focused on working with directors he admired and scripts that spoke to him. Films like The Talented Mr. Ripley, Rounders, and The Rainmaker. None of them were guaranteed blockbusters, but each gave him space to grow as an actor. Still, that balancing act took a toll. Behind the scenes, he wrestled with anxiety, burnout, and the sheer exhaustion of having to prove, over and over, that he wasn't a fluke. The Oscar hadn't made things easier. It had raised the stakes. Fame had handed him a crown. Yes, but it came with thorns. One of the most defining relationships of Matt's life wasn't with a director, a producer, or a co-star. It was with Robin Williams. On the set of Good Will Hunting, Robin wasn't just an actor delivering lines. He became a mentor, a guide, a quiet force of emotional intelligence. He took Matt and Ben under his wing and offered more than just career advice. He offered life lessons about fame, about grief, about finding peace in the noise. Robin showed Matt that it was okay to be vulnerable, that great art came from empathy, not ego. Their conversations were deep, raw, and often hilarious. Robin had walked through fire, and he showed Matt how to survive it with grace. When Robin died in 2014, Matt was devastated. He called it one of the greatest losses of his life, And in that grief, he remembered everything Robin taught him and vowed to live by it. In a world of red carpets and scripted interviews, Matt's greatest role wasn't in a movie. It was at a bar in Miami, where he met Luciana Barroso, a single mother working as a bartender. There was no publicist, no glam, just a quiet connection. They married in 2005 and kept it low-key. Matt didn't want headlines. He wanted home. Together, they built a blended family with 4 daughters. No flashbulbs, no tabloids, just dinners, homework, and everyday life. And for Matt, this was everything. He often says that marrying Luciana was the best decision he ever made. She grounded him. She reminded him what really mattered. And in a town where relationships break as often as box office records, theirs endured. As Matt entered his 40s and 50s, his career shifted. Yes, he still starred in hits like the Bourne franchise, The Martian, and Ford v Ferrari. But his mission expanded. He co-founded Water.org, a nonprofit providing clean water to developing nations. To date, they've helped millions. Not for praise, but because he saw injustice and refused to look away. He became more selective about roles, more present as a father, more vocal about causes that mattered. Fame became a platform, not a prize. And through it all, he kept his sense of humor. His long-running faux feud with Jimmy Kimmel became a comedy goldmine, a reminder that even Oscar winners don't have to take themselves too seriously. Today, Matt Damon is no longer the underdog. He's a respected, seasoned artist, someone who walked through fire without losing his soul. But what makes his story special isn't the awards or the roles. It's that through pain, rejection, triumph, and tragedy, he never stopped choosing kindness. He never lost his curiosity, his humility, his desire to be better. As an actor, a father, a man. And maybe that's the real success story. Not the fame, not the fortune, but the quiet resilience of a man who turned his pain into purpose and never forgot where he came from. If this story moved you, give it a like. Share it with someone who needs a reminder that success doesn't always look the way we think, and subscribe for more stories that go beyond the surface. And don't forget to check the description for other deep dives in our favorite moments from Matt's career. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.